Thank you everyone for joining today's session. It is my hope that you're keeping well from wherever you are. So my name is Michael Osunga. I'm happy to connect with you once again. I know we had a session on QGIS map exports and layouts. So allow me to share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So today we're gonna have a very exciting moment on how to build custom web maps using Mapbox. So maybe as an icebreaker, you can go to the chat box and type whether you've interacted with Mapbox before, yes or no. So let's go to the chat box. Have you interacted with Mapbox before? I see lots of no's streaming in. I see some of you are beginners and majority are no's. Yes, some of you have used it as base maps. Of course, interesting. For the few yeses, Karen, maybe you can give us a snapshot of how your experience has been with Mapbox. Sorry for putting you on the spot.
It's okay. It's okay. My experience, I was just using it for fun, maybe learning about it, and the experience was interesting. It has a really nice features, and for me, it was easy to work with. So I look forward to learn more about it. Yeah.
Perfect, amazing. Yeah, so for those of you who haven't used it before, I must say that it's a very interesting tool. And I'm just going to showcase one of its main functions, basically using it to build custom web applications, or what we refer to as web maps. I'm trying to move my slide. Not too sure. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so for today, I'm just going to take you through what Mapbox is, and then you're going to have a deep dive, and then later on, you're gonna have a session for Q&A. So yeah, so data visualization. I think this is a pretty huge topic currently. Across the globe, many organizations are investing heavily in data visualization. And there are so many tools out there that are being used to tell stories. And the best way to tell a story is to put it on a map, right? So how to put information on a map? Yes, there are so many ways you can do it. And Mapbox is just one of the tools that can enable you to come up with interactive infographics. But before we go deeper into Mapbox, let's just remind ourselves what maps are. So maps, the art of making maps, is called cartography. It's also a science, it's also a technology. Why maps? Maps are very important because they are a special purpose language for just describing spatial relationships. Maps also enable us to effectively communicate and report whatever information we've gathered from the field or whatever information that we've obtained from credible sources. So maps can be of two forms. So the most commonly used form of maps are static maps, basically printed maps, something you print on a map, a 0 size, A4, and then yeah, you can make information out of it. And then interactive maps. And interactive maps is what you're going to discuss today. So what are interactive maps? So basically these are web-based maps that can render in a desktop web browser, maps that can also render well in a mobile browser. We always talk about OpenStreetMap, and I think OpenStreetMap is one of the most commonly used interactive maps where you can easily go into an area and then you can zoom in and you can be able to see different features, including roads, lines, line features, polygon features, and so on and so forth. But then again, some interactive maps, they come with softwares. So Mapbox being one of them. I saw on the chat box that some of you have interacted with Mapbox through their base maps. So there are so many interactive software that can enable you to come up with interactive maps. Others include Tableau, Power BI, ArcGIS Online, and so on and so forth. So as another icebreaker, just go on the chat box and put any other interactive software, any software that you know of that can give you interactive maps. Let's go on the chat box. Besides Mapbox, Tableau, Power BI, and ArcGIS Online, which other software do you know of? Yes, Jen, we have Leaflet. That's a good one. Which other interactive map do you know of besides Mapbox, Tableau, Power BI, and ArcGIS? Kato, yes, I like Kato. UMap, yes. UMap is one of the interactive maps that heavily relies on OpenStreetMap data. OpenLayers, yeah, I like OpenLayers. Which other one? Unfolded, never heard of that. That's a good one. I also see F4 map 3D. That's a new one. Flourish, yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah. Looker, nice one. Never heard of Looker before. Okay. Demo F4 map. It's also based on OSM. Awesome. I'm learning quite a lot on interactive maps. Yes, there's Gogo Kato. There's D3. I'm not too sure how many of you have interacted with D3. Yeah, but there's Outdoor Active. Yeah, thanks. Any other one? Yeah, I think those are the ones, just to mention, but a few. Yeah, so OpenLayers, Leaflet. Yeah. So today we're just gonna go deeper into Mapbox as one of the many softwares that can enable us to come up with interactive maps. So yeah. I don't know why oops, sorry. I'm not too sure why my cursor isn't moving. Yeah, so I'll start off with Mapbox. So Mapbox is a very fantastic software that has been developed by, I think it's an American company, I'm not too sure. So it's a location data platform that renders well into both mobile and the web browser. To to learn more about Mapbox, I mean, all the codes are on GitHub, as you can see. And then, yeah, so like I mentioned before, it's a location data platform that powers maps and location services, and it's used by many organizations. How I came to learn about Mapbox is, yeah, I like Al Jazeera, and there was a time they made a very nice, intuitive story map about the River Nile. And from there, I just fell in love with Mapbox. I also came to realize that most of the print media, including CNN, and other reputable companies, they also use Mapbox to come up with either static or interactive maps. So Mapbox technology originated with a team of web developers who wanted to answer this question. How can we draw a map dynamically inside a web browser instead of just having static map tiles rendered on a server? Like I mentioned before, most conventional GIS, their outputs end at static maps. But then again, how can we come up with dynamic maps, interactive maps that can render well in a web browser? So the good thing about Mapbox is it enables you to come up with such cool maps. And in order for you to learn to use Mapbox, one, you will be required to have a Mapbox token, which I'll be able to show you in a short while. So Mapbox comes with so many services. So the good thing is that it has like four key services. So there's the map service part, which heavily relies on a library called Mapbox GL. And then you also have the search service, and all this you can access using their APIs. Then they also have some APIs that can enable you to do some navigation. If you want maybe some isochrones, or you want to get the shortest distance, network analysis. If you want to come up with a routing application for a company or for your own consumption, you can use some of their navigation services. And then for those of you who would want to learn more about mobile-based applications, they have their Vision service. So this is where you can have access to some SDK APIs that will enable you to come up with Android-based applications. So how to use Mapbox? So like I mentioned before, the first thing before you start, before you go into the nitty-gritties, is you need to create a free account where you'll be able to access an access token. Let me just show you how it is. So you can create a free account here. Let me see. I think I'm already logged in. So yeah, so you just log into Mapbox, you sign up, and then you're going to be granted an access token. And with this access token, you can be able now to access some of those APIs that I've mentioned to you earlier on. So as you can see, you will be within 50,000 free loads, and you can have access to about 200,000 free trial requests, which for me, it's quite huge. I've built so many applications using Mapbox, and as you can see, I'm still within the 50,000 free loads, and I'm still within the 200,000 free trial requests. So the free version of Mapbox, I must say, it gives you quite a lot that you can even start building applications with. Then with Mapbox, you can be able now to design map styles. Like most of the conventional base maps, like OpenStreetMap, they come as they are. But one good thing about Mapbox is you can design your own base map. As you can see, look at on the left, this is what is usually there. And on the right is what you can really customize in terms of you having a base map. One thing I also like about Mapbox is that much as it's code intensive, but they seem to be having lots of resources in their website where you can really learn. So the first thing you need to go to is their tutorials. I mean, they offer a lot of tutorials on how to. Much as it's code intensive, the good thing about the Mapbox engineers is they've always come up with templates to begin with, okay? So if you click on the tutorial session, there are some tutorials where you don't require any code, and there are tutorials where you require advanced knowledge on coding. So I would urge all of you to go to this link and then just see what Mapbox has to offer. And here you can also filter by whatever product. Like for instance, for this, there is the most commonly used library is Mapbox JS. It offers so many. It's a library that allows you to come up with interactive web applications such as story maps and so on and so forth. So it's a good start, Mapbox GLS. And then there are so many related topics to Mapbox GLS that you can select. So if you want to do analysis, I'm sure here you'll be given some options on how MapGLS integrates well with other libraries such as tough JavaScript, how to process satellite imageries, and so on and so forth. So this is a cool starting point. So yeah, like I mentioned before, Mapbox runs in 3 programming languages. So as a prerequisite, you'll have to learn about HTML and then some little bit of JavaScript. And then for styling your web pages, just learn about CSS. I will throw in some links, but the best way to start is W3 Schools, where you can just quickly have a crash course on each of these programming languages. Yeah, so like I mentioned before, Mapbox, in order for you to start, you first of all need to have an account on Mapbox, and then you'll be given some access token where you'll be within 50,000 free loads. At the same time, you can also be able to request some of their APIs. And then, yeah, I mentioned that a good starting point is just go on the tutorials and see what Mapbox has to offer, even without having any knowledge on coding. And then they have this cool site. It's called the Impact Tools. So Impact Tools, these are basically blueprints that the Mapbox engineers have been able to like come up with, and you can build on this blueprint. So you don't need to code from scratch. So some of the blueprints that Mapbox engineers have been able to develop is we have what we call a sheet mapper. We also have how to find locations with filters. So you can easily click on each of these impact tools. There are tutorials about it, about them. You can easily come and look at their live demo, and then you can access some of their tutorials and their template codes. And also they have webinars about some of these impact tools. So here, if assuming you have some data and you'd want to apply some choice filters for this data, for that data set, you can easily come up with such an interactive map using Mapbox. So this is an example of, locating, let's say, shops that are have these devices, and also shops that support these languages, and you can apply such choice filters for any of your projects that you're implementing using OSM data. I remember very well at some point in time, I did a demo in one of our projects that we are currently implementing. And but for this particular session, we are going to learn more about interactive storytelling. So I'm going to showcase how quickly you can come up with a dashboard using Mapbox story maps. So yeah, so this is like the how-to, and all this information is available on their website, and you can easily follow. You can grab hold of the tutorial, their webinars, just to have a better understanding on how they work, and so on and so forth. So yeah, like I mentioned before, for this particular session, we're going to just do a very quick demo on how to create an interactive dashboard using Mapbox. So I used some of these resources to just come up with the template that I'm going to share. So in your own free time, you can always come and get back to these tutorials, and it will enable you to better understand some of the processes that I'll be able to showcase. I like this a lot, the interactive storytelling, where it just gives you a snapshot of what is required to come up with a quick story map. And then, yeah, without further ado, I think I'll go into a quick pop quiz. So let's go on the chat box. Which of the following is not a programming language used by Mapbox? Is it Python? Is it HTML? Is it JavaScript? Or is it CSS? Which of the following is not a programming language that is used by Mapbox? Yeah, I see you're getting it right. Yes, so Python. So in order for you to get your hands dirty with Mapbox, it will be required for you to learn about HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Yeah, Python is not, but I'm sure some of you know a lot about Python. Maybe you can organize another webinar for that. So yeah, so Mapbox deep dive. So let me just give you a story on how I started, how our dashboard will start. So remember, from last 2 weeks ago, we had a session, and we were able to come up with a map showing, African countries, and some of these African countries were within some trading blocks. So, and I came across the Southern African Development Community block, and from their website, they have this cool static map. But then again, I came to realize that using this information, using this map, you can easily grab hold of some more information about these countries. So for instance, if I click on Angola, I will see that, yeah, I can be able to see more information about Angola, such as the capital city, the currency, their Independence Day. So for this particular task, we are going to make an interactive dashboard whereby we'll be able to somehow click on this, on an interactive map, and from that interactive map, we'll be able now to populate more information about the country in terms of whether their capital city, their currency, and also in order for us now to get more information about the country. So we are moving from a static map to an interactive map using Mapbox. Okay, so I'm just going to do a very quick demo on how you can achieve that using Mapbox. And of course, we shall be using this template that we have developed for the Open Mapping Hub. So basically, we are just going to quickly have a similar output, and I was able to share with you the template, basically where you can have access to the data, the code that goes to it, and so on and so forth. So very quick, I'm just going to open one of the most commonly used code editors out there, which is called the Visual Code Editor. So yeah, I don't know, can you see, I've opened the Visual Code Editor. Can you see my screen? Can you see?
We're still seeing the slides.
The slides, okay. So I think I'll have to make some adjustments. Let me stop sharing this, and then let me quickly share either my entire screen, or let me see. There. Can you see? Are you all able to see the visuals? Yeah. So yeah. So I don't know. There is this Zoom tab at the top. So let me just put it down so that it doesn't, okay. Yeah, let me just place it at the bottom. Yeah, so this is Visual Studio. It's one of, I like making editing code using Visual Studio. So it's free, you can access it. So for any story map, the first thing you need to do is you need to have four chunks of code. The first one is the CSS code. So it's normally called the style CSS. So what you normally do is you have to organize your folder and organize it in this form. So always have a data folder where you dump all your vector layers that you'd want to feed into your web application on Mapbox. So here, this is where I'll have all my shape files in form, all my vector data in form of JSONs, all contained in the data folder. The other thing is always have an images folder. So this is where all your images that you're going to embed into your dashboard or into your story map are going to be. So for instance, for every chapter, I'm gonna have a specific image, and I've dumped them in my image folder. And then lastly, you need to have 3 sets of codes. So one should be style CSS. So basically, the style CSS allows you to just do a quick styling of your web page. And then you also need to have an index .html. So basically, this one uses the DOM HTML. What's the word? What's DOM? DOM stands for, can't remember, document something. So you also need to have it with you, and then you need also to have two JavaScript files with you. One is the config, and then one is the map.js. So you don't have to build all this from scratch. The good thing about Mapbox is that for the story map, it has all these templates with you. So all these were just templates that I downloaded from Mapbox, and I was able to now tweak them a little bit to suit my needs as a GIS person. So let's start with the index. So the index HTML, it basically allows you to give a title to your story map, and then it also allows you to access some of the Mapbox APIs that you'd want to use. So for instance, for this particular case, I'll be using the Mapbox GL library. At the same time, I'll also be using a library called Scrollama. And then for my fonts, I'll also be accessing the fonts from the Google API. So I'll be using the Roboto condensed font. And then, so this will be the head. And then in my body, I'll have two types of divs. So I'll have the map div and the story. So the map div, this is where I'll put all my map functions. And then for the story, this is where I'm going to put my story map. And then with this index HTML, I'll also be able to access the config JavaScript together with the map JavaScript that I'll be using now to customize my map. And then for the story map, Mapbox have come up with this map.js file that basically allows you to come up with a story map. So for those of you who would want to read more about it, it's basically commented, so you can go and see what each of these function does, but you don't have to understand all of these things. Yeah, so you don't need to understand all of these things, but I'll start explaining from code line number 222, where basically we'll add some of the JSON into our working environment. Then we'll do some layer styling on the JSON that we've added. And then we are going to create some pop-ups based on the attributes that is contained in our data sets. Okay. And then lastly, we have the config JS. Now this is where we have divs that will go into our map, into our interactive story maps. So what these divs are, they're in form of HTML, and they will somehow allow us to add information for our respective chapters. So for instance, our first div is the top title div. So this is where we can put some HTML just to showcase our top title within our story map. Then we also have our title div. So this is where we are going to put our main title. Then we can also put some bylines, and then we can also put some descriptions. We can also put some footers if you want. And then for each chapter, this is what now we are going to embed. So if I want to easily test my current interactive story map, I will just click on go live. Okay. And if I click on go live, the app is just going to be hosted on my local computer, local host. Okay. Can you see the local host popping up? Is it?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I don't know if there is a way. Is there a way that I can share my entire screen without necessarily? Let me see.
Yes, there should be a way. Or you can just hold your control key down and then you select the screens you want to share.
Okay. Let me just. Okay. Can you see my local host?
Yes.
Yeah. So the good thing about Visual Studio is it allows you to test your application as you build on it. So as it stands, the template starts from here. So if I click on go live, the local host is going to be opened in my web browser. And this is how it is. This is how it is at the moment. Like I mentioned before, these are the titles that go into each of these divs, and this is how they are displayed on the interactive story map. Okay, so this is chapter 1, basically just showcasing some of the countries within the ESA hub, and then this is chapter 2, this is chapter 3, and so on and so forth. So for this particular demo, I'm just going to show you how we can easily embed some of the SADC countries into this story map and do some layer styling so that we can be able to gather more information about these countries. So yeah, so for each of these chapters, you can embed some HTML into their divs. So for instance, for chapter 1, you can come up with, instead of now putting them line by line, you can create these divs that would go into your chapter. And yeah, so before you start using before you go further, you'll be required to enter this the Mapbox base map that you'd want to use, and then you'll have to also put in your access token. And then this is where now the divs that have been able to somehow fill in using some HTML, this is where they're going to go. So for
Hi everyone, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can get.
Have we just lost Michael or it's just on my side?
I think it's generally.
All right.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
sorry, I had dropped off momentarily. Yeah, from wherever I am, there is some lag with internet. So yeah, so this is where I was just trying to explain email divs for each of the sections on your story map. So how the story map is organized on Mapbox is that you'll have specific chapters, and for each chapter, what you can do is you can embed the, the contents within that chapter. So for instance, for chapter 1, I've embedded div chapter 1, which now basically contains one, the name of the title of the chapter. Then you can also embed an image that will appear within that chapter. And then you can also embed, let's say, some web URL where maybe you want to show like this image is from this source. And then lastly, you can also come up with like some information that would go with that chapter. Okay, as you can see in my chapter 1, I've embedded this map as an image, and underneath I've put a link showing the source of this image where I can easily click on it and it will showcase the URL source for that image. And then it also contains some story, maybe just to provide a story about that image. Okay, so that's how the Mapbox story map chapter is. The other thing you can do is you can customize these chapters by aligning based on their alignments. So you can either put a full alignment of the of your story chapter, so, or you can put it on the left, align it on the left, on the right. So maybe if I come and change here to right, see how it changes. So you can see my first chapter, everything has been aligned to the right. The other thing that you can also customize here is where you need to position your chapter. Okay, so at this particular moment, you can see chapter 1 is positioned in DRC Congo. Okay, but you can always align it to wherever you'd want to align it. So how do you change that? The good thing about Mapbox is they've been able to come up with what you call a location helper. Can you see my web browser?
Yes.
Yes. So there's this location helper. So for instance, let's say I want to make, I want to put my chapter to Madagascar, for instance. So I will just zoom to Madagascar. Okay. And then I will come and copy this code from the location helper. Okay. So it contains the coordinates where Madagascar is, the zoom level, and then the pitch and bearing. So I'll just come here, copy, and then I'll go to my code and I will replace all these codes with whatever I've just pasted. Okay, so let me save that and let's go to the map, and you can see the chapter in terms of alignment. It's no longer in DRC, but rather it's in Madagascar. So what this does, it helps you a lot to just enable you to position your map. Okay, so if I want to position my map to Eswatini, I will come and zoom in to Eswatini, and then let me zoom in, and then I'll just come here and I'll go to my code and I will just change here and then just save, and let's see if it changes. Okay, so yeah, so that's how you can change your location for each of the story map title, story map chapter. And then there's also how you can animate. Okay, there are so many ways you can move from one chapter to the next. So one of the most commonly used way is to fly to. So from one chapter to the next. So if I want to move to another chapter, I can use the fly to function. Okay. Okay. The other thing is I can also do some rotation. Let's say I want to animate. I want to rotate the map. So you can just say rotate, change this to rotate is to true, and see how it changes. Okay. So you can see now my location is now on rotation. So this is always good when it comes to maybe putting points, and you'd want to just give some idea of how that point should be. And then the other thing you can also do is you can play around with the pitch and the zoom. Okay, so assuming I would want to play around with the pitch and the bearing, you can also use the location helper. Okay, so right now I'm changing the pitch a little bit. Okay, at the same time the bearing, so you can just come and adjust the pitch and the bearing from the location helper. And then let me just come here and change and see how the story map is gonna change to. You can see, yeah. So there are so many ways you can customize your chapters further on Mapbox based on the location you want to go to. You can change the zoom levels, you can change the bearings, and so on and so forth. And then the other important thing is in order for you now to visualize what comes into your chapter, you can always now load in some vector data, and that's what you're going to do. So how do you load some vector data into Mapbox? You can achieve that by going into the map.js, and you can add a polygon, okay, by using this quick code. Okay, so I was able to comment it out, but let me just uncomment it. So how do you uncomment? It's control. Okay, control. Yeah. So this is how. So this is the code on how you can add your JSON into Mapbox. So this is a JavaScript code. You don't need to worry a lot about it. I've been able to simplify it in a way that you can read through the code and see how it works. So what it does, it goes into the data folder, and then it's now going to load the JSON named SADC clean upper.json. Okay, and then the other thing it's gonna do is it's going to style it to a fill color which is red, and then the fill opacity is gonna be 0.5. Okay, so let's see if that has been added on my map. Okay, so yeah, so I think it's added somewhere. I can see it somewhere on top. So let me just adjust the my location back to, was it DRC Congo? And let me adjust the bearing to, yeah, I think it was here. Let me just refresh it again. Yeah, so let me just take it back to where it is. So for this particular tutorial, I'm just going to highlight how to add few countries from the ESA region. And let me come here and center the map to where it is supposed to be. So let's go on Visual Code. So you can see the file has been loaded on my Mapbox, right? And let me just deactivate the rotation to false so that it stays stationary. Okay, so there you go. So as you can see in my first chapter, what has just happened is that I've been able to load a few countries within the region. So they include Angola, Congo, Tanzania, Zambia, and Malawi. So the next thing would be now we'd want to put some reactive effects to the layer so that anytime we click on a specific country, some information is going to pop up in these countries. So how can you achieve that using Mapbox? Is by first of all adding an outline around the polygon that we've added. Okay, so basically I'm going to add a line outline of which is going to be white in color. Basically, I'm just styling my interactive map. And this is how it is. So I've just applied an outline, which is white in color. We can change it to whichever color you want. So this is basically layer styling on Mapbox. So let me just change it to black, something black. And then let me change the line width to 5 so that it can be a little bit thick. Okay, and let's see what we have. Okay, so yeah, it looks a little bit shouting, but yeah, you can style it to whichever way you want. And the last thing we are going to do is now we are going to add what you call a pop-up click. Okay, so we would want an interactive map where if I click on a respective country, some information about that country is going to pop up. So how can you achieve that using Mapbox? So it's very simple. With a few lines of code, you can easily come and use the map on function. And here we are telling Mapbox to add a click effect on our JSON vector file that we've just added on Mapbox. And then we are telling Mapbox to use these fields that are contained within my JSON. So I want you to populate the name of the JSON. I also want Mapbox to populate the capital city of each country, the currency, and also to provide a link where you can click on it and then it will provide more information about that link. And then I'm going now to use the pop-up function on Mapbox GL, which basically is going to create this set of HTMLs whenever I click on the interactive map. Okay, So all this is contained in the template that I was able to share. So if I activate this code, let's see what happens. Yes, so there you are. So if I click on, so basically I've created what we call a model, which it's like a dialog box that pops up. And if I click on it, it somehow now gives me more information about that specific country. So for this particular case, if I click on Tanzania, I can see, okay, the country name is United Republic of Tanzania. Its capital city is Dar es Salaam, and its currency is Tanzanian shillings. And if I want to get more information about Tanzania, I'll just click on this link, okay? And it will take me to another page where I will get more information about Tanzania, okay? So yeah, so with just few lines of code on Mapbox, we can already see that we've achieved an interactive map where we can get more information about the vectors that we've loaded on Mapbox. So that's basically it. And I'm just now going to quickly show you how you can publish map application from Mapbox. Okay. So how you go about it is there are several ways in which you can publish your Mapbox application. So you can publish it on GitHub. So if you have a GitHub page, you can always host it on GitHub. You can also host it on lastly, you can also host it on Glitch.
Hey everyone, have we lost my again? Oh, it's on my side. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Beck, we can hear you.
All right, nice.
It is terrible. Internet is terrible from wherever I am. Yeah, so where was I? Let me just share quickly and showcase to you how to, the quickest way you can host your Mapbox application. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, so like I had mentioned before, the quickest way you can host any of your web application on Mapbox is using Netlify. I find it to be very easy. So how can you host your app? So it's very simple. You just come to, you have to log into your Netlify account. So as you can see, these are some of the story maps that I've been able to deploy using Mapbox. So this is a set of dashboards that I've been able to host on Netlify. So how do you deploy an app? You just come to deploy, and then you drag or you locate your folder where you have your Mapbox information is under project. So I'm just going to upload everything. So what Netlify does is it will read all your data, all your project files, including your CSS file, your JavaScript, your index HTML, and all of it is going to be uploaded in a project folder in Netlify. Let me see. Yeah, so it's here, and it's going to be given a specific URL. Disseminate to people, interactive dashboard. So let's see, it's currently uploading. I'm not too sure why it's taking me back. Just hold on a little bit. Sites. Let me up, then let me upload. So it's gonna take time. Yes, so here it is. So this is the name of this is the URL, but you can always come and edit the URL link. So for instance, I want to change the name of the site, and then I will call it DQI 2022 Mapbox demo, something of that sort. Mapbox demo, and then I'm gonna save it, and then there it is. So this is the URL link, and there goes my application. Okay, as simple as that. It's already active, and let me just share it on the chat box, and you can share your project with whoever you want to share with. There you go, as easy as 1, 2, 3 using Netlify. Yeah, and I think I've come to the end of the quick demo on how to build a quick dashboard using Mapbox. Over to you, Becky, and the rest for any questions.
Let me just check the chat. No questions in the chat yet. Any
Okay. I will be able to share the project folder with each and every one of you, so that at least you can, on your own, at your own pace, you'll be able to just go through whatever I was able to demonstrate.
I think there are no questions. In case you get any questions, you can forward them to Michael. He's on Slack, the same name. And you can also ask me, and maybe I'll forward that question. Otherwise, thank you so much, Michael, for this. And I'm looking forward to creating one with you. In case of any questions, I will as well reach out. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.